Hi all, welcome to another episode of Saturday Architecture. We've talked about it a little bit more about what is local versus global practices. I give two examples to see how it is actually a struggle and what is in the US, not work for India or within the Indian ecosystem. There needs to be a certain amount of customization and localization. When I say certain, I'm actually meaning majorly, not some minor tweak to that. It has to be rethought effectively rather than doing a copy paste from there. 25 years I've seen code reviews. Nobody feels, I would say hardly 10% of the developers I have worked with feel good going in for a code review. They feel bad when suggestions are given to code or changes are given to code. Why is that? It's got to do with, hey, if you point out flaws in the code that I have got, that actually means that I'm bad. I'm not intelligent. And I've come through a school system, education system, and an evaluation system such that if I got 99 out of 100, I'm not good enough. If I didn't clear my campus interview, I'm not good enough. If I didn't if I didn't finish a project on deadline, I'm not good enough. So it's always, if I meet a benchmark, I'm good. And if there are some defects that is found, it is bad, right? And it is, so I think it's got to do with a lot with Asian cultures where Japanese will hang their shame. I've seen that happening where they really hang their head in shame if a bug is found in the code. Now, in that kind of an ecosystem, every time somebody does something, if somebody else looks at it and pokes holes in that, that demoralizes that person. So there's a lot of resistance to, this is not just code reviews. Imagine a proposal review, a PowerPoint that is given. I have seen 95% of the people going in for a review feel bad about it. They don't feel good about it at all. It is like they are being stripped naked and their mistakes are pointed out. But in US, the culture of work is left professional, right? It's like, hey, you told me something about the work. It's got nothing to do with Kumaran as a person. You are telling something about the work. Okay, fine. We will go ahead and leave it. Similarly, I'm just taking code review as an example. So if we have to do code reviews, there is a different way it has to be done over here. It cannot be done in the way that it is prescribed, or it will be too resistant and it won't work. Either the ones giving feedback will break the confidence of the person receiving feedback, or most probably I have seen that people generally tend to, practically what happens is code review happens, some 3-4 cosmetic comments are given and then it is pushed through. Nobody really bothers to give a strong statement. So if the process is implemented, it works ineffectively, which means it's as good as dead. Or other companies just don't do it because it's too convoluted, complex, and they say, I don't have effort, my team members are too busy. There are other ways in which it manifests. Because the core value of a code review is, as a team, we will become better, is not getting implemented. So we are missing the intention, focusing on the process, okay? And that causes it to failure. I think so. We have to keep the intention and find something local which will work for our culture and our mindset. What are your thoughts, Deepak?
I think, you see, what you say is right. It's what you have experienced, right? I will not contest that this does not happen, right? This does happen, and people feel exactly the way you said. Right? They feel bad and they are not happy with receiving feedback or even giving genuine feedback, right? This is my only contention, is that this is not something which is so hard ingrained culturally. Right? This is something which we have learned. Right? This is not something which is against any socio-economic learned process through centuries. That's what my contention is. There's not something which you cannot unlearn, right? So the key word here I'm using is unlearn, right? So if it is a good practice, let's say code review and genuine code review, giving and receiving feedback is a good practice, which has probably no cultural connotations outside of your work, right? That is something which can be taught and learned. And the reason why I say that is because there is a large chunk of Indian uh, coders, Indian professionals who go abroad, right? Who go there and learn this thing, right? And they thrive in that culture, right? It's not like that they have because they work with the people who are from a different culture, and they are, which as you said, they are able to distinguish between personal and professional, right? They are able to cope there, right? It's not like that this is something which we are born with, that we cannot unlearn, or which we cannot do better with, right? If we are taught, right? And some of those cultures actually have come into the centers which you have opened for the all these large multinational companies coming from US. They have opened large development centers in India, I think. And they have to be successful. For them to be successful, they have to bring those practices in, right? It's not like they can live without those practices. So I think it may be a good idea to learn from that experience, right? Because it's not as if they would have not made any adjustments. I'm not aware of what adjustments those could have been, but I believe largely they have been able to successfully teach the culture of giving and taking feedback, right? And I say this from personal experience, right? That there is a conscious effort that is required to be able to bring that culture change. It is not something which we are used to, as you're right. We are not happy taking feedback and anything. So that's why even when we go across, this is the improvement programs are basically like I've been put on what we used to call as PIP, right? Performance improvement program, right? So improvement program is linked to you are doing something horrible. It is not about being better at something. It's like you are horrible. You just need to be put on to improvement plan, right? So there are, yes, you are right. There are cultural things which we have learned, that if something is feedback is given to you, that means you are a horrible person or you are horrible at work, right? So I believe it is possible to learn it, right? Because I personally have learned it, right? It's not like that I would say I was born with it, that I should take feedback positively or negatively, right? I've been taught how to take feedback, right? And I've been taught how to give feedback, right? And I think this is something which can be done, right? It's not
any methodology or any books or person you can comes to your
I'll
mind.
tell you my personal experience on giving feedback, right? So this is what we were taught, right? I'm just this is and this is a very common feedback mechanism. They call it the sandwich method, right? So you must have heard about this sandwich method, right? So the sandwich method is a good method to, and that works across cultures, right? This is nothing to do with being Indian or not. So you start with something good and say, okay, you are being good at this. So if, let's say code review, right? You say, okay, so instead of finding and pointing out the faults first, you say, okay, let us look at what are the things which you have done good first, right? Oh, this is good. This part of the code is good. This is efficient. You have used the right syntax. You have used the right formatting, etc. Whatever the feedback needs to be good about, right? And then you say, okay, these are the places where you can improve. This is why it can be improved, right? And this is why it is not as good as it could be, right? And some of it is in the words, right? You don't say, oh, this is a horrible program or whatever, right? It says this can be improved and this is why it can be improved, right? And you justify your reason why it can be improved, and then you close with something good. That is the sandwich, right? It's in between the two good things, you will say something which needs to be improved or something which is bad. So that is one method which we learned, that this is how you give feedback without offending people. And by the way, my wife is a teacher. This is how they are teaching their teachers to give feedback to students also, right? Right. So this is in the current schooling system. A lot of schools are practicing this. So that's what I'm saying. It is possible to learn this. It is not hard learned, or it is not so-called part of our genes, right? So I see hope. I don't see I don't see it as a deadlock between cultures, that we cannot be good at doing this, right? It's, in my view, it's just a procedure, right? If you look at it clinically, right, it is just a procedure, that this is how you give and receive feedback, and how you can be good at doing these things, right? And just like writing good code, you can get good at giving feedback also, and receiving feedback, and not getting offended by it.
Thanks all for joining. Hope it was useful. Please share your feedback and comments.